the biggest game of the 2025 season.
Empty backfield for Bear. Bear will go quarterback draw.
Number 7, BYU, and number 8, Texas Tech, both fighting for the inside track to the Big 12 championship game.
Bears got the 5. Bears got the end zone!
This is KSL's special extended pregame. BYU, Texas Tech. Texas Tech. Our hosts are Mitch Harper and Kyle Ireland. On Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio.
Good morning, Cougar Nation. Welcome on into extended pregame coverage of BYU versus Texas Tech from Lubbock, Texas, site of this massive top 10 Big 12 clash with Big 12 championship implications, but also college football playoff implications. I am your BYU insider, Mitch Harper, alongside with me, Cougar Sports Saturday co-host Kyle Ireland. We host Cougar Sports Saturday every Saturday here on KSL News Radio, noon to 3. And Kyle, massive game, maybe one of the biggest all time in the history of BYU football today against Texas Tech.
Yeah, good morning, Mitch. It's exciting. You know, BYU, Texas Tech, they both find out their top 10 playoff rankings earlier in the week. College game day is here. A lot of excitement around both of these programs. The NIL deals that, you know, both of them have had that have led them to the success that they have now. You know, BYU year 3 in the Big 12. The fact that there's a lot of accolades for a young freshman quarterback and Bear Bachmeier. It's crazy to me, Mitch, though, that this is the first big matchup where both the teams in this game have been top 10 for BYU in program history. The fact that that's never happened before kind of blew my mind, you know, learning about that earlier this week. But, you know, excitement in the air. It seems like this Red Raider fan base is really amped up for today's matchup this morning. And, you know, BYU is going to have to be on their A game if they want to come out of Lubbock with a big win.
We got here in Lubbock on Thursday night. We walked through Raiderville, and that was an experience in and of itself. As you saw with me, Kyle, I was a middle-aged man that was overstimulated by all the craziness that was taking place in Raiderville. Everyone was respectful to us. No one was, you know, bad-mouthing us or anything, but it was just a little bit crazy to see, this young Texas Tech student is being duct taped to a pillar on Jones AT&T Stadium. There's pong that doesn't include a honor code friendly beverage taking place. It is a hyped up scene here in Lubbock, Texas for the Red Raiders and the Cougars. Some would even say around these parts that this might be the biggest game ever in Texas Tech history. Others would say maybe 2008 when Texas Tech hosted number 1 Texas is the biggest game ever. Still, it's a big one. And for BYU, it's the first ever top 10 football game in the history of the program, which, like you said, hard to believe the stakes that are involved in this game between BYU and Texas Tech. A first trip to Lubbock for BYU since 1940. So, again, it's strange to see BYU playing Texas Tech, and then you add the fact that there's so much on the line in this game. And head coach Kalani Sitake had this to say about this Texas Tech squad that comes in at 8-1 overall this season.
Yeah, I mean, they're a complete team. They can do a lot of different things, and they're very deep. And so you look at the talent, not a lot of drop-off from 1 to 2, and that's in every position. And then they're well coached. I mean, you look at all the things. You have to be on top of your game because they can do it in 3 phases, and they play great complementary football. And so we like to try to do the same things as well. And so there's a lot of things that we see that they do really, really well that we try to emulate ourselves. And so we're hopeful that we can get the work done, but hope is not a great strategy. We got to actually get to work and put in some time. We did it last week. Felt great about that and the progress we've made. And now I got to see if I can do my job as a head coach and make sure that we're ready to roll by the time we get there Saturday.
BYU's coming out of a bye last week, and this week they're gearing up for this top 10 clash. And what are some of the areas that you find interesting in this matchup between BYU and Texas Tech, Kyle?
Yeah, I think that, first off, I'm interested to see how BYU comes into this game off of a bye week. They were banged up a couple of weeks ago. You had that Iowa State game where you put a lot of effort into coming back in that one. It was a week after the rivalry game. BYU needed, a week off. They needed to be able to heal up a little bit. Hopefully that helps them in this game. I'm really interested to see how they perform, though, because you're you're looking at a top 5 offense and defense in Texas Tech. Only one of 2 teams that can say that this season at this point. Indiana is the other one. And obviously Indiana's undefeated and ranked 2nd in the country. And so, this is going to be a tough test for both the offense and defense. But, Bear Bachmeier, I'm really interested to see how he performs today because, we saw LJ Martin get banged up a couple of weeks ago. And he's had a few times this season where he's had some nicks and bruises and, he's been able to play through those. But I'm really interested to see, how LJ is able to support Bear Bachmeier and then what impact that has on Bear, because, if this game really falls into where maybe BYU is not able to run the ball effectively with LJ Martin, how much does Bear Bachmeier have to run the ball? Or is it a game like we've seen against West Virginia or Iowa State where he has to air it out and, it's one of those 300 passing yard type performances from Bear. So that's intriguing to me. And then on the other side, I'm really interested to see how the cornerbacks, the secondary perform against, this air raid type offense with Baron Morton. And, he's now their entrenched starter again now that Will Hammond's out for the season. He's been back now 2 weeks in a row and, seems to be healthy and ready to go for this performance as well. So, he's a good quarterback. They have good offensive weapons, but their defense is outstanding. They're really a complete team, Mitch. And so BYU really is going to have to, be on their best performance for this game, like Kalani Sitake just said.
Kickoff coming up today at 10 a.m. for BYU and Texas Tech. You can listen to the call right here on KSL News Radio, the KSL News Radio app, KSLSports.com. So many different ways to listen to BYU and Texas Tech. You brought up the health of the team. LJ Martin's going to play today. 2 weeks ago at Iowa State, he got banged up. He is available today. Same with Jack Kelly. Same with Isaiah Glasker. It's a relatively healthy team. The only players that are out for BYU are Tommy Parasis, who continues to deal with a foot injury. Running back Sione Moa, who we did see yesterday. He arrived at the team hotel yesterday. He made the trip, but again, he's out today. He's still recovering from his injury that he experienced that weekend from the East Carolina game all the way back in early September. Cornerback Marcus McKenzie, and then defensive tackle Anisi Purcell. Kind of an underrated absence there for Anisi Purcell because think back to 2 weeks ago, he had a sack against Iowa State. And when you look at the depth at BYU's defensive tackle spot, you like Keanu Tanavasa, you like John Talmoy-Payau, but it's that second unit where if you need to have a breather for those top-end guys, you're now digging into that depth, and it becomes Justin Kirkland as the second-string guy. He's been there for many weeks since the Colorado game. And then also Kafusi Pafoke, a Weber State transfer, played a little bit against Arizona, but that's a relatively light defensive tackle unit against a Texas Tech ground attack. That's the third best in the Big 12. BYU obviously knows how to run the football at an incredibly high level. Texas Tech does too. This is a pretty complete Texas Tech team, and head coach Joey McGuire is the one that puts it all together, and he's a former legendary Texas high school head coach who climbed the ladder, worked his way to the college ranks where he worked on Matt Rule's staff at Baylor, also with Dave Aranda. And Joey McGuire is really fired up now that he's taken over Texas Tech. He's entrenched in that program, and this is a game that he's excited for.
Man, this is why you coach, man. This is awesome. This is, you got an 8-0 team versus an 8-1 team, and I think, it's one of those games that, man, you look at, it's what football is all about. It's going to be really physical.
It really is, and these are two teams that pride themselves on that physicality, and it's a far different look than the Big 12 of old, Kyle, where you thought video game-like numbers, and maybe these offenses could still put up some numbers today. We'll see, but these are teams that pride themselves on the defensive side of the ball and that physicality that Coach McGuire just talked about.
Yeah, I mean, David Bailey, 11.5 sacks this season. You've got Jacob Robinson, who's a turnover and a tackling machine. Those guys have been spectacular so far this season. Romeo Height, BYU's really going to have to find creative ways. Aaron Roderick's going to have to, maybe pull out some specials. There's going to have to be, hopefully, there's some things that we haven't seen this season from this BYU offense, Mitch, and they've been saving them for a big game like this. I know that you've been high on Texas Tech since the offseason, and, maybe that's something that we see from this BYU offense where they, maybe pull out some of the stops that they have yet to show this season against the Red Raiders.
BYU's had some struggles with specials this year. Maybe they can execute some big ones today against Texas Tech. Let's take our first time out from here in Lubbock, Texas. Mitch Harper, Kyle Ireland. It's extended pregame coverage for BYU and Texas Tech here on KSL News Radio.
BYU, Texas Tech, Texas Tech.
What was he doing? It hit his foot, and it's BYU football. That ball was almost dead, and it touched the Cyclone player, and the Cougs have it.
Special extended pregame coverage on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back into extended pregame coverage of BYU versus Texas Tech. Mitch Harper and Kyle Ireland with you. We hold it down every single Saturday on Cougar Sports Saturday, noon to 3 on KSL. And then I also host Cougar Tracks daily, 6 p.m. here on KSL News Radio, your legacy home of the BYU Cougars. Number 7 BYU versus number 8 Texas Tech. It's a massive game, Kyle. Such high stakes. You could argue this might be the toughest opponent BYU has ever faced since joining the Big 12 Conference. But one thing we do know, this might be one of the best defenses they've faced since joining the Big 12. And BYU offensive coordinator Aaron Roderick agrees with that.
This is the best defense we've played probably since Texas in 2023. I'd say they're right up there with those guys. This D-line they're freaks and they're really good players. Their linebackers are great. Everybody knows that. Good secondary. They have no personnel weaknesses. They have a very good scheme, very well coached. I have a lot of respect for their defensive coordinator. Yeah, they're good. They don't really have any weaknesses, and they get turnovers, man. They strip the ball as well as any team I've ever seen.
And with a big game like this, Kyle, it creates a big national showcase, and that's what we're witnessing today as College Game Day is taking place right now. Obviously, it's happening. You can maybe have that on your TV, but keep us on your airwaves listening to us. But we got the chance to talk with Reese Davis and Desmond Howard about this matchup.
Yeah, it's always fun when, a game that you're covering gets the national spotlight. Mitch and BYU, they got it earlier this season with Big Noon Kickoff. Seems like, this conference, is getting a lot of love this season, back-to-back weeks in the state of Utah being represented on game day, and BYU, being able to be down here in Lubbock, a top 10 matchup. It's fun. It's exciting for both fan bases, but like Aaron Roderick said, this Texas Tech team has no weaknesses. And I'm interested to see because, I do think there might be some position groups that are at a disadvantage in this matchup. And how does BYU handle that? How do they take advantage of what they believe their strengths are? Do they, pull out, some things we haven't seen earlier this season? Do we see trick plays? Do we see, a guy like JoJo Phillips, for instance? We haven't seen him since, early parts of this season. And, for the first month of the season, BYU is a completely different team now. And so how do they reincorporate a guy like him back into this offense where, he was one of Bear's favorite targets in fall camp, and now, reincorporating him with, Parker Kingston and Chase Roberts, the success that they've had. And then this defensive, front seven in particular with Texas Tech, I'm interested to see how aggressive they are in trying to get after Bear Bachmeier and disrupt him.
And going back to, it's all good points, and I think those are some of the things that were discussed by guys like Reese Davis and Desmond Howard, who yesterday we had the chance to talk to. And Reese Davis, though, when I asked him about, his impressions of BYU football since joining the Big 12, because Reese has seen different iterations of BYU over the years. He called some Thursday night games. He once called BYU Navy and COVID, and now he gets to see BYU in this grand showcase event in the Big 12. And this was what Reese Davis had to say on what he sees BYU as in the Big 12.
When you go and play BYU, you're going to get hit. I think the Big 12 as a whole has changed a lot from the era we were talking about earlier, where everybody was, 66-59, Baker against Patrick. And I think now what you've seen more teams in the Big 12 that have high-level defenses. Utah certainly plays great defense. So, I think that really just knowing that you have to have the depth, that you have to be able to recruit that depth, that you're not going to have big breaks in your schedule that maybe you do if you're not in one of the Power 4 conferences, has really helped BYU elevate its program.
They definitely have, Kyle, and a guy that's seen that as well is Desmond Howard. I asked him about his thoughts on BYU head coach Kalani Sitake.
Man, listen, Kalani Sitake is, one of my favorite coaches. I just like what they stand for. I like his approach, and I like the toughness and the grit of his team. So I'm old school that way. So I have a lot of respect for Sitake and his coaching staff. I think they do a really, really good job, and they've been just so consistent too. So that's what I love about it.
Yeah, consistent is a great word there because BYU is 8-0 to start the season, back-to-back seasons for the first time in program history, looking to make it 9-0 in consecutive seasons this week, Mitch. But I did think it was an interesting comment from Reese Davis, Patrick Mahomes and Baker Mayfield there that he was talking about, and, just high-scoring, high-powered offenses and defenses that didn't match up with that. But that's not going to be the case in this performance. And it's kind of funny, too, at the same time, because Patrick Mahomes is the guest picker today on College Game Day, and it's fun to see that. The Chiefs, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes on a bye week this week, able to come down to Lubbock for that. So fun to have, both their alma maters and, being able to do some charitable stuff earlier in the week. That was nice to see as well. But, yeah, this is an outstanding game because both defenses are excellent. Both offenses have had awesome performances this season. I mean, Texas Tech has been, outstanding except for their one loss, and that was against Arizona State on the road, and it was with their backup quarterback. And so, both teams, I think that this is one that, the entire college football world, the nation is going to be looking at today.
BYU scoring offense today enters the game 36.3 points per game. Rushing offense, 216.6 yards per game. And passing football, 216.8 yards per game. Very balanced attack is BYU. And the guy calling the shots is BYU quarterback, true freshman, Bear Bachmeier. I asked Reese Davis for a comparison who he sees, because Reese has seen it all in ESPN at college football. He's seen all these great players over the years at the worldwide leader, and this is what Davis had to say on the comp for Bear Bachmeier, and also some additional thoughts on BYU's true freshman signal caller.
I can't invoke my guy's name yet. Bear's going to have to do a little bit more, but let's say that on the edge, dare I say there's a little touch of Tebow in there someplace. But I still say this. Quarterbacks can't wear 47. Don't like that. You can wear 4 or you can wear 7. You can say, I like 47, so 7 minus 4 is 3, I'll take 3. Or 4 plus 7 is 11, I'll do that. But 47s are for tackling quarterbacks, like my friend David Pollock, who was great at that. That's 47. So he needs to be 4 or he needs to be 7. I'll admit, I won't say I'm accepting it, but it's growing on me, largely because he's so stinking good. But yeah, he's a really good player.
That he is, Reese Davis. The 47, I'm over that. Like it looks good actually on Bear. I think it works.
We're going to hear about it for the rest of his career at BYU, Mitch. I mean, it's a fun talking point, but it's one of those things. I do want to see, Mitch, with the Tebow comparison. I talked about trick plays earlier. Are we going to see the Tebow jump pass? Is that what they're going to break out this week? We saw the hurdle. We're going to see the Tebow jump pass.
We will have to see if we'll see that jump pass from Bear Bachmeier, but we'll find out here in a few hours between BYU and Texas Tech. Mitch Harper and Kyle Ireland with you. Let's take a break. On the other side, you'll hear from BYU wide receiver Chase Roberts. He's hoping to be on the receiving end of those special play calls today here in Lubbock. It's BYU Texas Tech extended pregame here on KSL News Radio.
The biggest game of the 2025 season.
Empty backfield for Bear. Bear will go quarterback draw.
Number 7, BYU, and number 8, Texas Tech. Both fighting for the inside track to the Big 12 championship game.
Bears got the 5. Bears got the end zone!
This is KSL Special Extended Pregame. BYU, Texas Tech. Texas Tech. Our hosts are Mitch Harper and Kyle Ireland. On Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio.
Welcome back into extended pregame coverage of BYU and Texas Tech. Mitch Harper and Kyle Ireland with you here in Lubbock, Texas. And Kyle, BYU is going to be wearing a new helmet today. Sailor Coug helmet, royal blue. Are you a fan of the Sailor Coug logo as BYU's helmet logo?
Yeah, I am. I like it. I think it looks good. I like it better than the black gradient that they had a few years ago. I think it's clean. I like it a lot.
And here's something kind of fun, too. BYU is going to be wearing their home blue uniforms today against Texas Tech, while Texas Tech, they're going to be wearing a whiteout for Patrick Mahomes-inspired jerseys. So they are leaning heavily into their great quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. All Patrick Mahomes everywhere here. We went to the bookstore yesterday, got some college game day swag that actually featured the Sailor Coug helmet. So ESPN was already on point with the updated helmet for BYU and Tech. But this is a big game. You can sense it. You can sense the energy in the air with this one. And now it's a matter of, I think, the big-time players for both teams. But obviously on this side of things, we cover BYU. We want to see BYU star players perform at a high level in this game. And a guy that's a definite star for the Cougars is Chase Roberts, senior wide receiver who runs it back for another year at BYU for these type of moments. This was my conversation with BYU senior wide receiver Chase Roberts.
Chase just moments ago saw you grounding, I believe, with Bear Bachmeyer. What goes into that? Did Bear get you on board with that?
Yeah, it's more of a Skylar Main, Doc Main thing. He has all the starters go out after those that want to get extra work and make sure that we ground, take our shoes off, take our socks off, cut off the tape, and get our joints, everything moving, stretch out a little bit. Me and Bear do a little throwing together after, and that's kind of a routine that we've started and we're going to stick with.
Where do you see the benefits by doing that?
I think obviously there's the benefits that he talks about, the science behind it, but more mentally being able to just chat and talk together with Bear, get the extra reps in and just get on the same page, chat with each other, talk about life, whatever it is, and then get confident for the game. So I think that's the biggest part, is just the friendship part of it.
And the confidence showed itself quite a bit in Ames a couple weeks ago with you guys getting that big win. How confident is this offense right now heading into this big game against Texas Tech?
Yeah, we're super confident. I think we just need to do our job, stick to our 111th and love the challenge. I think we're all wanting this moment, and that's what it takes, wanting to be out there, wanting to match up against the best guys and just go give it our all. So we're confident, ready to go.
It's kind of, how do you tune out the magnitude of rankings and things like that and just stay dialed into that 111th and owning that portion of the game?
Yeah, I think with Big 12 play, like, every team's great, so you can't get caught up in the rankings. You just got to go one game at a time and win every game you come up against, and then hopefully play in the Big 12 championship. That's our goal. This is kind of game one of our end of the season playoffs. And we're ready to go, and win or go home mentality. So this is a big game, and I think that's how we approach every game, though. So we're just going to do our thing and play our game.
Do you feel rested and ready to go for that stretch run coming out of the bye?
Oh yeah, it's been awesome. The bye's been great. Been able to rest, throw up the legs, and do a little stretching and yoga and all that jazz. So feel ready to go. Feel fast and free, and just excited to go ball out.
What stands out to you about Texas Tech's secondary and this defense as a whole?
I mean, it's a great defense. They all have great athletes. So we got to win our matchups. We got to block. We got to do our jobs. And they're just very, very athletic, very disciplined. When you put that together, it's a great defense. So, but that's what we want. We want to show out against a great defense. So just excited for Saturday.
You bring up blocking, and any receiver in this program will talk about that. It's such a key piece, and I think people on the outside would not think wide receivers and blocking, but that's a key aspect of this offense, isn't it?
Yeah, you look at all the big plays that happen in the games, big runs by LJ and Bear, and it takes guys blocking in the secondary, the second, third level, doing our jobs, being able to crack down or get that safety that's over top, or cutting off our guy in the corner, not letting him run down the tackle. So we pride ourselves in that, and it's very important when it comes to those big time plays.
Were these spots for the game that you're about to have on Saturday what you envisioned when you decided to come back for your senior season?
Oh yeah, we knew we were going to be in this situation. At least I did. But we always want to stay just humble, hungry. Inside, I'm confident in our team. We're not going to, say it out on Twitter and tweet it out. But yeah, I knew we would be here. I love our team, and I know that we can win every game, every matchup we face. So we're just going to go do our thing love our brothers and go get it done.
And just how impressed too have you been with a true freshman helping you guys get there?
Yeah, he doesn't play like a true freshman, so it's fun to see him go ball out and just be him and play his game. It's just the game we played as little kids, you know. So you go out and you make plays and you rely on your training and athleticism and what you've been doing growing up. So that's what we do. It's like backyard ball, and we go have fun. So.
Last couple things here, Chase, just areas of focus for the offense this week heading into this game.
I think just playing with intensity, loving the challenge, doing our job, staying focused, and making contested plays. As receivers, we pride ourselves in that. So that's what we're going to do on a big-time stage, and this is the time to do it. So
it's a morning game. I know you guys had that last year. It used to be a thing. People on the outside would say, oh, day games for BYU, but you guys have had a lot of success with those spots. What do you think of the morning spot as a road team? Did any change up anything for you guys?
No, we're just going to go play our game. We've been on the road. Last year against Baylor, we woke up, early and went and started fast. It's the fastest game we started, I think, as an offense. So that's the plan again this Saturday.
And that's BYU wide receiver Chase Roberts here on extended pregame coverage of BYU and Texas Tech. What's your expectations for Chase today?
Yeah, I think that if BYU is going to have success throwing the ball, Chase has got to be, the number one wideout that he's proven to be. He's got to show up at that level. 591 yards this season, 4 touchdowns. It's kind of surprising to me, Mitch, that he only has 4 touchdowns this season as a receiver, and Parker Kingston 4 as well. I'd like to see BYU be able to find a little bit more success throwing the ball into the end zone. How effective is BYU going to be in the red zone today, Mitch? Is Chase going to be that guy that's going to be able to go up and high point the ball, and Bear can just rely on a big tall wide receiver like Chase?
91.9% red zone conversion, but there's been a lot of settling for field goals. Can BYU capitalize with those touchdowns? On the flip side, Texas Tech, 89.4% conversion rate in red zone action this season. Also of note, when we talk about Chase Roberts and the passing attack, that passing attack for BYU has to be on point today, because you can't assume their prolific ground attack will be operating at a high level. Texas Tech this season has given up fewer than 125 yards in all their games they've played except one. Last week, they gave up 126 yards. That's the most they've given up this season on the ground to an opponent this season. That was last week against Kansas State. This Texas Tech run defense is the best in college football. They only allow 74.6 yards per game on the ground. I think BYU's the best rushing attack that the Red Raiders have faced to date this season. But again, that passing attack better be on point, because Tech with Lee Hunter in the middle of that defensive line, BYU's offensive line better be really good, particularly the offensive tackles. But, that passing game better be operating at a high level. And the good thing is, Kyle, is that against Iowa State, BYU passed for more than 300 yards, and they were one-dimensional. They had no L.J. Martin, whereas today they do have L.J.
Yeah, Bear was spectacular. Bear has been nails this season, Mitch. He's made play after play when BYU has needed it. They've been down double scores in 3 games this season. To be able to come back in those performances, Iowa State, Colorado and Arizona were really impressive. But, you look at, this Texas Tech defense, 10 interceptions, 10 fumbles forced this season, fumble recoveries. It's been really impressive this season to see this defense.
We will see them in a few hours. BYU and Texas Tech taking place here in Lubbock, Texas. Let's take our final timeout. We'll get
BYU, Texas Tech, Texas Tech.
Play fake. Block rusher picked up, and he goes for Kingston. He got it again. Took it away from the defender and scores the touchdown.
Special extended pregame coverage on KSL News Radio.
Welcome into extended pregame coverage of BYU and Texas Tech. It rolls on. We're counting down until kickoff. 10 a.m. kickoff, BYU and Texas Tech. You can listen to the call right here on KSL News Radio. It's time for our score predictions. Kyle, how you feeling about this one? Does BYU get this thing done? BYU is a massive underdog, but the thing is that BYU loves to operate in that underdog role. They've been so good in these spots under Kalani Sitake. Not just recently, but really you look over the course of Kalani's career, They thrive when no one believes in them. Last night, BYU's social media team put out a video referencing all the national pundits that are just chalking it up to Texas Tech's going to roll. They're going to have a big win. Everyone, I think, is looking at this Texas Tech game and saying, oh, Texas Tech hammered Utah. They're going to do the same to BYU. I think people forget, though, that Utah's quarterback in that game was banged up, Devin Dampier, and, they came out with a win, but I think BYU's a better football team than Utah, and that shows itself in the polls, and it showed itself the way that BYU beat Utah as well. Your thoughts on what this score prediction is going to look like today here in Lubbock?
Yeah, I think I'm going to roll the same way I've been rolling through the first 8 games, Mitch, and that's where I think BYU is a team that's got a chip on its shoulder. I think that they have something that they're looking to prove. They felt such disappointment after the way the season ended last year, and to be able to have a big opportunity in front of them this morning, BYU I think is going to be on the prowl. They're going to be the Cougars that are looking to capitalize on the opportunity in front of them. They knew what mistakes they made last season. Kalani said they were going to address the bye week different this year than they handled things last year. And so I'm going to go with BYU. I think that they eke out one victory here in Lubbock that might go down as one of the best wins in BYU program history. So I'm going to say BYU wins it late. Will Farron is a legend in this program after what he did against the rival last season. I think it continues because I think BYU pulls off a 41-38 win over the Red Raiders. I think it'll be a good game. It'll be a close game. You look at Texas Tech this season, Mitch, they've scored over 30 points in every single game, and a lot of 40-point performances, 40-plus performances as well. But the only game they didn't score 30 points or more was their loss at Arizona State when they scored 22 points. And so I think that, this offense is going to be high-powered. What can BYU do to stop it? And then BYU just being, on their A game in every phase. And I think Will Farron ends up pulling one out for BYU in the end.
Fascinating pick because Texas Tech's highest point total allowed is 26 points. So that would be quite impressive. BYU's offense could get that done. Look, I'm going to say it's going to be higher than 26 points from BYU too. I'm going to say BYU gets it done. 31-30 over Texas Tech. Now, I will say, I've been wavering back and forth on this one the whole week. Earlier in the week, I would have said BYU loses by 14 points. Maybe I'm going with a little bit of a vibe check here. But there's something to me about Bear Bachmeier that is just truly special here. And I don't think he's going to be rattled at all. He's going to have some adversity in this game. He's going to get sacked. Just acknowledge that. It's probably going to happen. If he's clean, that's be shocker to me. There's probably going to be a sack or two. But I know that Bear Bachmeier is going to bounce back. And I think that BYU's defense will generate some takeaways on Baron Morton. Baron Morton's been really solid. I think he's going to be really good. But BYU's defense is opportunistic, and when BYU gets those takeaways, they pounce and they seize the momentum and snatch it away from the opponent and just build off that. And it snowballs, and I see that happening today. I think BYU wins, again, 31-30. I can see it being they get the lead, Texas Tech makes a late rally, and then BYU's defense holds strong at the end to hold off and get the win. Maybe a late pick interception, maybe some other takeaway, something late by the defense to get that stand and get one of the biggest wins, as you said, in program history. That's going to do it for BYU and Texas Tech extended pregame coverage. Let's toss it over to Greg Wrubell, Hans Olsen, Matt Baiamonte, and the crew on the BYU Sports Network broadcast. Have a great day, Cougar Nation, listening to KSL News Radio.